Welcome back to the Wolff Den, presented by Win Again Academy. I am Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Joe Mancini to the show. Welcome to the Wolff Den.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, man. Really excited to be on here with you.
Yeah, it was a great meeting you at the Johnny Damon Celebrity Golf event. But for the people who don't know who you are, give us a quick intro and then we'll get to it.
All right. My name is Joe Mancini. I'm the Vice President of Advancement and Philanthropy for an organization called the Wolff Syndrome Association. Been with this organization for a little under a year, but I've spent the last 20 years supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in a variety of different programs.
Well said. I am someone who still, I know you told me, and it's still, slipped my mind. So let's tell everybody, what is Wolff syndrome?
Yeah, no problem. And I've been in the field for 20 years, and it's something that I haven't come across until I was offered the position here at Wolff Syndrome. So I don't blame anybody. I'm in the field and I didn't hear about it. So Wolff syndrome is a genetic condition that's present at birth and really can affect anyone. It doesn't lean more towards any particular gender or ethnic background. It's characterized by medical problems, including cardiovascular disease, developmental delays, and learning challenges. And these often occur side by side with striking verbal abilities, highly social personalities, and an affinity for music. Many of the individuals, not many, but there are a few of our individuals are extremely musically gifted. Wolff syndrome occurs equally in males and females, like I said earlier, in all cultures worldwide. And, our job here at the Wolff syndrome is to make sure that individuals are aware of this syndrome, that they have access to the resources they need to navigate it, or they're volunteers and have access to the resources they need to help spread the word. And we do that in a variety of different ways.
Is it something that people get at birth?
Yeah. It's
they have it from birth. It's not life-threatening.
Oh, no, it's extremely life-threatening.
It is.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And I'm going to do a terrible job of this. So anybody listening, please understand that I am not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination. And I have a really good friend of mine whose son has Wolff syndrome and has explained it to me in the most palatable way. And I'll try to do my best to express this. But basically, there's a variety of components that come along with Wolff syndrome. But the cardiovascular disease is its mainstay. And what happens is the elastin that's created in the heart for anyone that doesn't have Wolff syndrome is not created in individuals diagnosed with Wolff syndrome, which causes a hardening of the arteries and can lead to sudden cardiac arrest at any time from birth or throughout the entire life. So individuals diagnosed with this that are suffering with cardiovascular disease from Wolff syndrome, and not every individual has that, but those that do, which is one of the main ways we diagnose, have to have that fear, whether it's a loved one or the individual themselves, that if I'm dealing with the cardiovascular part of this, that I could have sudden cardiac arrest at any point. So it's extremely scary. And there are other complications that come along with this. And like many disorders, it's a spectrum, right, Matt? So you've got some individuals that don't share some of the facial characteristics or don't have the cardiovascular disease, or maybe aren't impacted as much with learning disabilities. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got people that are extremely impacted with health concerns and have, very strong learning, need very strong learning support, things of that nature. So it's it's all over the spectrum, but there is very much a risk associated with this.
Okay, you mentioned something about the face. So this can be a visible disease.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is it a visible disease?
Yeah, it's and I won't do it a disservice by comparing it to Down syndrome, because it is not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination. But it is a deletion of a chromosome, and it does have certain facial characteristics that. Especially I hear parents all the time tell me, like, I'll see someone in the store and I'll see a child that's doing certain things or looks a certain way that they immediately know my son or daughter has Wolff syndrome, and that's the same characteristics. And, there's been people diagnosed because they ran into people in the store and said, hey, are you having any particular issues with this? And hey, here's somebody you may want to contact.
So you're saying it's possible they could not know up until a certain amount of time?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's people that go undiagnosed until they're adults, or some that they're diagnosed in their teens. Really,
even if you have some sort of physical, if there's, they don't look at a child and say something's going on here.
They do, but again, it's a very rare genetic disorder, about 1 in every 10,000. And part of what our job at the Williams Syndrome is doing is also educating medical professionals to ensure that they have an understanding that they can diagnose it. It's very underdiagnosed in minority groups and communities. And again, being on the spectrum, you could have a heart murmur that's part of your cardiovascular disease and not as challenging as some other individuals. So providers are looking at certain things and they're not informed about Williams syndrome to the extent that they immediately recognize that, or the characteristics aren't as strong as in some other people. So they miss it. It's misdiagnosed or it's undiagnosed completely. So as we're saying, there's 1 in every 10,000, but the numbers are probably smaller than that.
Yeah, where does that put us with people walking around today with this disease?
It's a loss, right? So people are struggling and they don't realize what the complication is and why their son or daughter may be struggling through certain things. They don't realize Williams syndrome is out there. So there's a lot of people that are undiagnosed, and then there's people that are diagnosed and don't realize the resources that are available to them across the country because they didn't hear about us. So there's literally, it was one of my board members. He ran into someone at the park and they had a conversation and they brought up Williams syndrome and he was, oh, my sister has Williams syndrome. And they were like, go to williamsyndrome.org, go see the people there. They can help you. And at that point, it was 10 years since the diagnosis. So there's stuff like that happens all the time. And my job, and you hear the advancement and philanthropy. So my job is to raise money, to keep the research going, to keep the doors open. But it's also to make sure that we're connecting with organizations. We're meeting wonderful people like you that are going to allow us some time on their awesome podcast to come out and help spread the word. We had a massive event last night, Matt. We were trying to raise $1 million. We fell a little short of that goal, but we did a tremendous amount of money raised to go towards medical research to a group of people that for no reason would have ever had any association with Williams syndrome. They work in New York. They're stockbrokers, high-powered lawyers. They just happened to associate at this one restaurant. The restaurant gave us that space and allowed us to come out and do an event. And we raised, I can't tell you how much and how wonderful it was, and the work that's going to be done. And this was a targeted research effort. So it's going to go right to cardiovascular research to help produce that elastin.
That's great news. Great to hear. It brought up a couple of things that I want to go back to. I think there was a disconnect on the question. My question, but your answer was very good information that we want to go deeper into. My question is, how many people are walking around with Williams syndrome as we speak, roughly?
So it's about 1 in every 10,000 across the world. So in our database, and this includes family, we've got 30,000 members currently in our database.
How many people are there in the world? Like 300 million?
8 billion, 9 billion now?
Billion?
Yeah, 9 billion or something like that. Now, again, it's hard to give you, I'm giving you the most political answer I can here because it's hard to give you an actual with underdiagnosis and then in the fact that not
a huge number. It's a small number.
It is. It's considered a rare genetic disorder.
Yeah. I say that because, and you touched on it a little bit too, we have a lot of charities on here who are talking about diseases, and everyone knows someone who has been inflicted with cancer and mental health and almost everything, domestic violence, whatever you want to call it, whatever the problem is. And I asked the same question to them, and the issue is, how do you navigate through the world of philanthropy and charity and donations with a disease that 90% of the people never heard of, and that number or higher of people don't know anyone who's inflicted with it?
Yeah, it's a real
when they know so much. So I'm not talking about the person who's got all kinds of money, right? And they're just going to give. How do you do that? What do you need to do to sort of get the visibility and the interest of people?
No, that's
if I see a story about anything, I'm going to cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, there's nothing that separates what we're trying to do and makes it any more givable or any less important than cancer research or HIV research or whatever it is. We're all navigating and dealing with the same restrictions and the same personal connections. If it's somebody in your family, that's where it means something, right? Like breast cancer means something to someone because their mom had breast cancer or something like that. So we're navigating the same space as everybody else. And it is a huge pain in the ass to try to separate yourself from other organizations. And you do it in multiple ways. One, it's creating a top of the mind mentality, right? Like when you think about rare disorders or you think about disorders in general, our job is to make ourselves as visible as possible, whether that's through awareness events, whether it's through podcasts, whether it's crashing Johnny Damon's golf tournament and talking to everybody there. We have to, and me in particular, have to be as mobile as possible and reaching out and participating in every event, every seat at the table to help form legislation that's going to help people with disabilities, everything we create ourselves. We have to be as visible as humanly possible. And then it really comes down to the people selling the mission too, right? Like I have to be a likable guy. People give, like there's many things to give to, right? But if you connect with the person that's trying to bring you into the fold and help you support the organization, you've got to be likable to them too.
Someone said that who works with a lot of charities said they're giving to you.
Yeah, 100%. I had a gentleman at an organization, I won't call him out, but he has followed me from organization to organization to organization to continue to support my efforts in raising money. And he said to me the last time I called him, he's like, I give to you. I trust you. I know what you're doing. If you're involved in a mission, it's a good mission, and I want to support that.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
It's very much, even in my own house, Matt, I could give to mental health because I have family members impacted there. I could give to cardiovascular. My father just passed from a heart attack. I could give to cancer. My grandmother passed from pancreatic cancer. Like we've all impacted by a million different things within our family that pull at our heartstrings. It's a matter
of my dad died of pancreatic cancer. I think we probably talked about this. Your dad just recently died. I mean, you like
3 weeks ago. Yeah,
I don't, not to joke about, but you like apologize for having to cancel a call. I was like, what is this guy talking about?
Yeah, it's it's the worst thing I've ever experienced. I miss him tremendously, and it's hard, but life goes on, right? And
how old are you?
I'm 43, and he was 70, but a very active 70. He's a very strong man. And
it was sudden.
What was that?
It was sudden.
Yeah, and it was just to really bring down the mood for your viewers. But he had a heart attack, and he called me at 3:00 in the morning. He wouldn't get in the ambulance, and I drove him to the hospital. And by the time we got there at 3:00 in the morning to the next day, they had diagnosed him with a massive heart attack, which impacted his blood flow to his kidneys, which back fluid into his lungs. And he had a very brave decision to make that meant he could go through multiple surgeries and be intubated and maybe never come out and suffer through a lot of pain. And the quality of life could have been poor. There was really no chance to salvage his quality of life that he lived before, or he could be made comfortable. And he decided that was the route he wanted to take. And we all got to hug him and kiss him for a couple hours before the medicine took in. And we lost him. It was one of the bravest things I've ever seen. And I'm really thankful I got to say goodbye to him the way we did.
That's a big thing. We don't talk about it as much. My father had he had Parkinson's disease, which was masking the pancreatic cancer in a sense. And, by the time we knew he had it, he was gone 6 weeks later, but it was like getting worse. And then my family just said, you got to come up, and I got up there right after he stopped talking. I know he heard me, but he wasn't talking. But my father and I had such a great relationship that I didn't have to say anything. Like he knew how I felt about him, and I know how he felt about me, and that's a very peaceful thing. And be able to say, look, I said goodbye to him, but getting able to say that is a powerful thing. I have this argument. Family members of mine, we disagree on how maybe to handle this stuff. I'm with your dad. If my quality of life, and it doesn't even have to be that drastic, I'm done. I'm going to just be like, look, I could tell you today, I'm married. I have nieces and nephews. Sure, I want to grow old and be with them. And my mom is still around and my sister, and there's a lot more for me to do. But I live life to that. If it's gone tomorrow, I'm pretty pleased with what I did. Now I have regrets.
Everybody does.
Things I want to do that I'm trying to do, but that's the way I'm going to live. And my wife had a friend pass away suddenly yesterday. It was a tough day for us. And it's just, I ask this question all the time. Like, why do we wait till these moments to start to live our life and really, get rid of all this stuff? I'm as guilty as everyone. I had this conversation yesterday on the show. It's it's tough. It's tough to lose family members. It's tough to be around people who are not well. My mom has MDS. She's functioning. You wouldn't even know it. She hides it. She was at our wedding, in pain, hurting, but pushed right through it. And so, it's sad to see people struggle, and you want to help them no matter how you can do it. And so I think that's one of the things that maybe you guys do have. It's a little bit of an advantage to people, is that it's something that you can help, and the stuff that you guys are doing can really help. I hesitate to give money to people because I don't know what they do with it. Even if you told me what you're going to do with this, I don't even know what that means. If we threw $1 billion at cancer, can we cure it? Because they've done it. So I don't know. So I think what you do is you do experiences, you have events, you give something to people who are giving. And we talked about this. Like, that's going to incline me. Let me buy a shirt for $50 and you keep 25 of it towards this, or 30, whatever. Shirts cost nothing if you order enough of them. So I'm like a selfish donor. And I think a lot of people are. And so I think that's where you can stand out from other people, is just doing events, giving value to being a part of this community who helps, so they feel good about doing it. And then, look, I hate to say this, it almost doesn't matter what you do with the money. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do with the money. Do with it what you will.
And you know what you're seeing, Matt? So you make a great point. When you're donating to our organization, you can have restricted funds that go solely to medical research, and that's although medical research is being done, this is something that takes decades and decades sometimes to show an impact. But what we do also that you can donate to the general funds of the organization is we do something that you can immediately see an impact on. So whether it be, we have a national conference that takes place every 2 years, where families and individuals diagnosed with Williams syndrome and educators and everybody in the medical field all come to get together, and we hold different sessions that allow people to have plan for long-term giving or updates on medical research. But also, our conference is so different. It's a party. Like, all the people are there, they're dancing, music is flowing, everybody's there. It's as much social as it is educational. And we, with the money that's donated to us, give scholarships to people that wouldn't normally be able to fly out. This year, it's going to be in California. In Phoenix. People that normally wouldn't be able to get out to Phoenix, we're giving scholarships out to do that. We have camps that take place in Georgia. We're sending people down to camps for free when they don't have the money to be able to go. We're providing free educational consultants for anybody diagnosed with Williams syndrome. We're providing resources for individuals. Like you said earlier, events are a small part of what we do, but the camaraderie of meeting with other families and sharing the experience at an awareness walk for Williams syndrome is something that you can't put a price tag on. And through donations, we're able to do this in every city across the country. We're now doing golf tournaments. Again, it's not completely altruistic, right? Like, we do these events and we raise money to be able to keep the operations going. But they're also coming together at that point to share information, to have some camaraderie, to be able to be with each other and be with other people that are struggling or succeeding through the same thing. Whether it's early on, we've got a lot of scaffolding in our program, right? So we've got families that have been diagnosed for 20 years. And then we've got somebody that just had their infant diagnosed. And now they're like, oh my God, what does this mean? What kind of life will I have? What kind of life will my loved one have? And to be out in an awareness walk in Philadelphia and see that family whose loved one now has a job and they've been able to navigate their cardiovascular issues and know that there is a future despite the diagnosis, is you can't put a number on it. And that's what we try to do in every area. And I have to give our volunteers a shout out here too, Matt. We can't do anything. We've got 8 staff on our program, right? The way that this gets done is we provide the support to hold these events, whether it's registration page or ordering shirts, but actual volunteers and people with loved ones that have Williams syndrome hold these walks, organize these golf tournaments, have these social parties or these Christmas parties and things like that. Every bit of what we do is solely successful because of the volunteers we have throughout this country and their dedication to this. We wouldn't be in operation if it wasn't for them. So they do amazing work for us.
I mean, I think that's probably true of almost all of these charities, but certainly the ones that are smaller operations like yourself, it becomes even more important because the amount of people you need to run an event is it's a lot. It's a lot
And
of
the care that comes from these people too. You have no idea the ask we make of our volunteers and the time and effort, months and months of planning, and it's a second job for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story. So we didn't have golf before this, right? We did one golf tournament, or one or two that some family members did, but it wasn't a mainstay of what we've done. And since I've come on, we've got about 12 different golf tournaments that are going to happen in cities across the country. And how I couldn't do all 12. I couldn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, we're supporting it, but I can't be everywhere. So I'm calling families and cities, and I never had to get through the first call. I'll call Brandon out in Tucson and say, Brandon, you want to hold a golf tournament out in Phoenix? And he's like, yes, absolutely. And we start planning it. I call Alex in Ohio or Jen in Denver, and immediately I only have to make one call, and they're already in. You know?
I know Jen in Denver.
Do you?
I'm just kidding. A real person, or you made that
up? I don't know how you got there. I like Jen in Denver. She actually has a podcast. You got to check it out. It's called the Starry-Eyed Effect. It's on our website. I didn't put the link in there because I'm a terrible person, but it's getting rave reviews. And from a podcast master like yourself, you got to go check it out and bother Jen.
This is a show.
Oh, show. I apologize. Right, yeah.
Eventually, it will be a podcast. I had to open up a podcast for one guest who wouldn't go live or video. And so it's there. And so eventually I'm going to clip all these and we're going to throw it in podcasts and whatever. It's a show to me. And I think it's a show, like a talk show, like a late night show. It's really, let's come on and talk. Instead, we talk a lot longer and we talk about more important things. Although we have plenty of time to laugh and joke around about things, but it's deeper. It's a deeper conversation. I mean, if you had 5-10 minutes to talk about Williams syndrome, you wouldn't even get past explaining what it was.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. All right, show's over. Go to williams-syndrome.org for more information.
And I love the actual set. When we were talking about planning this, you were like, listen, I want you to come on. We'll talk about Williams. We're going to talk. And then we could do another show later on where, I have a board member who's just the most wonderful. Her name is Sindra Cole. She's amazing. She's our board president. And she just speaks so eloquently. Her and her husband both speak so eloquently about what we do and how we do it, and have been invested for years. And that's who I was talking about bringing on maybe next time if we come on. And she would, she's a rock star, man. I look like a battling gorilla over here.
The good thing about these conversations, the people that I have on, for the most part, and this is episode 280, and it's not that I don't allow it. It's just, it doesn't happen. Partly because I've gotten good enough to not let it happen, but also partly because people can just come on and talk. It doesn't have to be, here are my talking points. It's not rehearsed.
Organic.
Yeah. And so that's how I like to have the conversations. But I think it speaks well about your organization because you're going to get to talk about it. Obviously, the stuff is streaming against. It's like I said to someone yesterday, when I go on someone's show, I don't even have to mention Ticket Time Machine once. Ticket Time Machine sticker is right there. My shirt says Ticket Time Machine. There's probably something on there. And then you're going to be like, oh, I like what this guy has to say. Let me see what that's all about. And so I think, that's part of the reason of just having a conversation about things. And because we can get information anywhere. We don't need to sit here and talk about all the specifics, but I want to talk about like, what's the, what is going to compel someone to want to get more information. And one of the things that you guys don't have that I know of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that is, again, this is sort of just what it is. You have, do you have a celebrity who has the disease? Do you have someone who's got millions and millions of dollars? Because Patrick Swayze gets pancreatic cancer, a lot of attention on pancreatic cancer. Michael J. Fox been championing for Parkinson's for God knows how long. Breast cancer, I forget how it started with Susan Komen, but there's just a lot of money. And what money does, aside from getting donations, all that, it gets more attention, right? So it just gets the ability to just do whatever, buy media, buy advertising. So I don't think you guys have anyone with like the hugest pockets who are just going to throw, $10 million at it, or a celebrity who everyone knows about who could be like, oh, well, that person has this. And for whatever reason, if that's the reason why you're interested in something, more power to it.
Yeah. So we don't have a celebrity champion, which is something that I've been trying to develop, but celebrities have so many of their own causes and things that they're attached to. There is a young man, Zachary, who's running back for UCLA last season. He's coming out in the draft this year, whose sister is diagnosed with Williams syndrome. And he's already agreed to support us and raise awareness, do some cleats for causes, things like that. His family's going to host a golf tournament out in California for us. So we're very lucky that they're open to championing for us. And he's just a brilliant, sweet, very shy young man. His dad and his mom are awesome. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting his sister yet, but we're very lucky in the fact that that he's interested in supporting us, and he looks to be a high projected second round pick that could really impact the team and could have some stardom, and that would really help us too.
Did we talk about Ari Solomon, or do you know Ari?
I do not know Ari Solomon.
He creates these really incredible cleats. Does a lot for Major League Baseball, but he does some for football. He's done a lot of work with the Mets. I'll connect you with him.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It'd be great to have him maybe do a cleat for.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I know we talked.
The rules are they do have a week and a game. I don't know what the rules are, but whatever it is, maybe he'd be happy to do something for you.
Yeah, I know that Zach said that they would also sign some stuff for us. So I'm happy to connect because we could do something that he'd create. We could auction off later on. And again, I know that 100% of our proceeds go directly back into the program. Everything's filtered back in.
Well, you said that 100%, but you have operating costs, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It goes into the program itself. So, when I say 100%, it goes to the scholarships, it goes to the medical research, but it also has to pay our salaries to continue to operate, which isn't that's a tough thing in this field too. It's not a sexy thing to hear, I got to pay Joe's salary or I got to pay Sarah's salary, but we're the ones that are managing all of this to make sure that it happens, and it does take work.
I was on a call the other day where like 90% of the money goes back into the thing is 10% operating costs. And I'm like, okay, that's a nice number. What are you considering operating costs? Like,
you can manipulate that.
You can really embellish your operating costs.
Yeah. What we do is we're transitioning out. We actually had a CEO who did an amazing job growing this organization and founded it for over the last 40 years. Just amazing work, the connections she established, the relationships she developed, and they were great about sharing with family members, how are we spending, but we're trying to take a more organized approach to being transparent in our money raised, which means quarterly reports to our membership, quarterly reports to people that are donating to us, impact reports at the end of the year. So we could say 90 or 80 or 100%, but I will be able to tell you at the end of the year, $1 million went directly to research for cardiovascular improvement, something like that. $70,000 went to scholarships for conference attendance. We are going to break down those numbers for anybody that donates or any members that are involved in the organization, so they see exactly, it's not percentages for us, it's actual money value and how it's spent.
Yeah. This
is what we raised, this is where it was, and then you can make your own percentages from there. We're going to tell you directly how the money's spent.
If someone gave $100,000, if someone gave $1 million, if someone gave $10 million, how would you treat that? What would that go towards? How would you use it?
First, I would go to a ticket time machine, and I'm buying a whole bunch of tickets. I'm going to all my favorite sporting events. So right now we're raising money. Our focus is raising money to improve the organization and the operational efforts within the organization. And when I say that, I mean, we're going to set aside scholarship funds for people. We're going to be able to find individuals that need to get out to Boston for their own care, but can't afford to get out there. We're going to fly families out. We're going to hire additional consultants so we can get people out for housing consultants for individuals with disabilities, or more educational consultants. Or we're going to pay for people to go to camp. We're going to have Camp Blue Skies is going to be filled up for $10 million. We're going to have 100 more people than we normally would have there that we're going to pay for, things of that nature. We're going to make sure that every one of the things that we're already doing is done tenfold. And then we're going to listen and create more programs. Like, there's a huge tech initiative out there right now that could support individuals with disabilities and enabling technology to help improve the lives and create more independence for individuals with disabilities, in our case, Williams syndrome. That kind of money brought in, we can start exploring some programs like that. Or, there's housing needed. Somebody wants to give $100 million tomorrow. we could start creating apartment complexes across the country and make sure that housing's available. Pipe dream, but there's so many amazing things and so much support needed that we have what we're doing now, and that would bolster that. But we could also create and do more in the areas that aren't being invested in.
Is what eventually is going to cure this disease? Is it money?
It's going to be money to fund research. And I'd love to sit here right now and tell you, Matt, 20 years with $100 million, we're curing this. We're going to be able to identify in utero. We're going to be able to create the gene. I mean, we're going to create the protein, elastin. We're going to make sure everything is good beforehand. I can't say that's the case. I don't know. But
no one knows. It just seems to me like we throw so much money at all this stuff, and we feel it's possible. And they've made such great advances in treating cancer and all other kinds of disease. And but I don't know. I mean, I'd love to think that we're going to cure all this stuff in my lifetime, but I don't know what it going to take. Like, it's very possible that whoever is going to figure this out isn't even born yet.
So what I'm going to say here is that while we may not cure it in our lifetime or the following lifetime, what we're going to do immediately upon the impact of this research is improve the quality of life of anyone diagnosed with Williams syndrome. So let's take anesthesia, for example. Individuals with Williams syndrome have a 80% higher risk of passing away under anesthesia than the general public. Now, that doesn't mean that 80% of people with Williams syndrome pass away when they go under anesthesia. Just means the likelihood that something could happen, a cardiac arrest, is greatly improved in the general public. What we've been able to do in the last couple of years with research is help set protocols on things to do during operations or going under anesthesia that physicians are aware of, things to look out for, things to do beforehand, that are reducing the risk of individuals going under anesthesia. So we're not curing it, but people are in a hell of a lot safer position because of the research, because of the money we've raised that went to research that have created a more stable environment, and people have to worry less about things that you and I take for granted. When we go get anesthesia for the dentist, we're straight, right?
Yeah,
individuals with Williams syndrome.
Terrible reaction, Dan. I get like,
oh well, then I'm okay.
I sweat like crazy. I got some really bad nightmares.
The worst thing that's ever happened to me was I woke up singing Michael Jackson's "Beat It," and the nurses thought that was hilarious.
Not terrible. I think one of the things about money is, are we what percent are we spending to try and cure it and to find whatever is going to cure or really reduce, and then what part are we trying to make the quality of life better and expand the life expectancy and all of that. I don't know what that is overall for all of these diseases, but I would think, you'd want to be doing as much to try and enhance the life as the cure, because I think the cure kind of comes, who knows if there's a cure out there. We don't even know if any of this stuff is curable. Yeah. But then we think, who thought some of this other stuff would be curable? And when AIDS happened, everyone thought that's it. You get AIDS, you die.
But now you're living a full life. But you know what? In our case, the research it's widespread, right? And what we do that I think is very cool is we fund something called a Young Investigator Grant, which means people that are going into the research field and getting their doctorates, we fund early research for them to become invested in Williams syndrome and want to make their career research following Williams syndrome. So we're grabbing people very early on and funding through some of our fundraising efforts, funding their research and kind of growing lifelong researchers for this. And then the research that they do, it could be we have a variety of different things that we're doing, whether it's how to support the research on how to support individuals with Williams syndrome in their educational efforts. Again, the anesthesia part, the elastin part, and some of the things that we're researching, it not only has impact on the quality of life of the individuals that we're serving, but there's crossover like anything else, right? It's a terrible comparison, but what wasn't Viagra a blood pressure medicine originally? And we're finding out that the creation of this elastin protein it's almost like a fountain of youth. And I hope I'm doing it justice and explaining it right. Again, secondhand information as I'm learning. I've only been here 6 months, but there are some anti-aging components to this that, and that's a way to really go out when we're talking to people that may want to fund some research. there's some people that can make a lot of money off of that. And we're hoping to be able to get in front and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And this is how it could impact the general public as well, not just a small subset of 1 in every 10,000.
Yeah, if we find the cure to any of these, it's a big war right now in Congress and about the cost of drugs, and that's my worry, that if someone does find what to do, man, that's they almost have that with donors in certain respects, that people can jump the line, or it's a tough. I have never had to deal with any of that, but I even still have a struggle with donating blood. My mom needs blood, and I think there's not as many people who have her type. I'm fortunate enough to be able to give, so I do give to her. But yeah, that's probably a fear of people. I mean, probably something to think about.
What does Chris Rock say? He said the money's in the comeback, right? It's not in the cure, it's in the treatment. Yeah. So you reasonably worry about things like that. Like, the sicker I stay, the more money I spend. Now, I am a conspiracy theorist at heart. I love a good conspiracy theorist, but I'm you
I can't imagine that's true. It would really be, and believe me, I have a lot of moments where I question the humanity of people, but that's a much bigger. I mean, that's not a few people. That's
I know that the people that we work with are Dr. Pober, Dr. Levin. I'm leaving out a million people, but they are truly dedicated, lifelong researchers to improving the lives of people with Williams syndrome. And if somebody ever tried to tell one of those people, and they're some of the strongest, smartest people I've ever met, if somebody tried to tell them that they found a cure and they couldn't get it out to the mass public, they would be the first ones to riot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in these cases, these people this is what they've dedicated their entire lives to helping Williams syndrome families. I can't speak for cancer or anything else, but I know when it comes to Williams syndrome research, there's an army ready to come out once they figure out the answer to this thing.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, we hope it's in our lifetime. The positive thing is putting together events and programs that help the quality of life. To me, the quality of life is everything. Absolutely. But on the other hand, there's just certain things. I don't care how good you say my quality of life is going to be, considering the circumstances, I'm out. I'm not interested in it.
I think it depends on where you come from too, right? Like, so take my father, for example. 70 years, he worked every day of those 70 years, with the exception of Sundays for the last 20 years. He closed Sundays. He worked 6 days a week, every day throughout 70. He provided, my mother is very sick. He provided care for her. My brother is very sick. He provided care for him. He lived for his grandchildren. He never missed a family event. He never missed a basketball game for my sons, both of my sons. One's 24 and one is 12. And he's been at every single game. He was my safety net. He was my partner in crime. He went to events, and he was a bigger dude too. It was hard for him to walk around at the end. Like, he had bad knees, but he's still trundling through Madison Square Garden to go see them play the Atlanta Hawks 2 years ago, and coming to Citi Field to come sit with me and watch a Met game. He was so full of life and so full of care, and took care of everybody, that when he heard that he was going to be the one that needed to be cared for, and that his quality of life was as such that somebody else had to take care of him, he made that decision. And I think I used to say, if I got sick and there's a hole in my body, stick something in it. I want to be around, right? Plug me into whatever you got. But I like to think, and I'll never be half the man my father was, but I like to think I step into his role, and I could see why. I now, like you say, Matt, if there was something that my quality of life wasn't going to be what it was, and I can't be there for the people that I love, and I don't want to use the word burden, because nobody's a burden if you're your own family, but I don't want people to have to take on my care. So I'm in a different mindset now. My dad was brave enough to do it. Then,
I even say, like, we've had amputees on this. I was like, I don't even know if I could live without an arm or a leg. And these, of course I can. I could do stuff. I understand that, but man, the will to live and persevere and prosper in some of these people, I gotta admit, I'm a lazy guy when I have the opportunity to, and that would be an opportunity to be lazy and just sort of not give up on life, but you know,
It would be
give
I could see
yourself
anything as
restrictions and limitations, which the average person who gets this, they just don't do that. We don't give ourselves limitations and restrictions, when they don't do that, and that's it's such an inspiring thing. And I'm amazed by it always. But we always give ourselves limitations and restrictions. I do it again, guilty as anyone else.
Yeah, I'd like to think that I work with people every day with amputees or visual impairments or hearing impairments, and any one of those things, thinking about losing an arm or losing your hearing or your sight, is extremely frightening. We're all one slip and fall away from a traumatic brain injury, where I'm providing these services. I could fall down my steps tomorrow and need these services.
Yeah.
But I like to think, especially in what I do, in the amazing efforts and successful lives I've seen of people with disabilities over my last 25 years, that I'd have the same perseverance and the same courage and the same ability to say my life and who I am will not be defined by my disability. And I'm going to go out there and continue to do everything I'm going to do. I get your point and how scary it could be, but if you spend 10 minutes with anybody that's living their life through a disability, especially one that limits mobility or vision or something like that.
I do. They're the happiest people I've ever met in my life, and they have every reason to not be. And part of the thing I think is, and it's going to be a weird analogy, but here's what I do it to, because I talked to my niece the other day, who's 8, and she talked about skiing. And I'm like, well, I'm terrified of skiing. But you got on the slopes when you were 1. You didn't have any idea, no better. And so these people, they grow up, they don't know anything better. They don't know what they're missing necessarily. They can tell that they're missing stuff. They can tell that they're different, but they don't know. It's not a woe is me. A lot of them, I guess some probably do. But
I'll tell you, I'll give you an example, Matt. My daughter has a disability. She has what's called dyspraxia. It was a traumatic brain injury in the womb. She's also diagnosed with autism, more towards the Asperger side. And that's a little bit of an archaic term now, but really her autism is a lot of social deficits. So she doesn't know how to have reciprocal conversation. She doesn't, peer-to-peer engagement is poor for her. She doesn't know how to maintain a friendship. She's the sweetest kid you'll ever meet in your entire life. Cognitively, she's brilliant, but she's very, very lonely. And Lily she understands she's different. She understands what happened to her. She can advocate on behalf of herself, but is still lonely and still sad. And kids are not mean to her. We're very lucky that she rarely gets bullied, but they also don't include her. She's not a part of anybody's soul. She made the softball team. So my daughter, part of dyspraxia is finding gross motor skill movements are tough. And when she learns a movement, though, she could kill it. So she's got a cannon. She could throw you out from right field, and she can mash a ball. But it took forever to teach her that movement. And now she's got it. So she made the softball team 2 years ago, killing it. But when she goes back after she smacks one to the outfield, she sits on the bench by herself. Everybody high fives her, and then she goes and sits down. When they walk back from practice, or when they did, she's not on the team anymore, everybody walks together, and she's 10 feet behind them carrying her bag by herself.
Yeah, we have some friends who are, I know some people who are similar to what, I don't think as extreme as what you are, but you can tell that they're socially awkward. They don't understand, have conversation, minds moving a million miles a minute. And you want to, for me, I was like, have them around. Or I don't want to use it. This is going to sound probably bad. Is it annoying every once in a while based on the stuff that they say and how they interact, because they don't know maybe what they should be saying or not? Sure. But you know what? I got friends who know better and are still annoying and doing all that stuff.
Most of my friends
not including them. I say, look, include them, because it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And as long as the people I'm around aren't mean to them, then wherever we are, you can choose to talk to them or not talk to them, and you'll be fine.
We're teaching social engagement to Lillian, but Lillian is teaching acceptance across the board, right? You like, there's a lot of people, disability, not disability, good social skills, not good social skills. There's a lot of assholes out there that I don't engage with. There's a lot of people that I don't want to talk to. I don't find my cup of tea. When you can see the kindness in somebody and the love in somebody, you want them around you. Lillian, I'm going to give a shout out now too. If you guys have a loved one that has a disability, especially at 21 or under, there's a camp out in Honesdale, Pennsylvania called Summit Camp, what they've done for my daughter and her social skills and the improvement they made in her life just by having her the ability to have peer-to-peer engagement on a regular basis throughout the summer. Shep Baum is the owner of that organization. I don't get any money from this. I have no advertisement. I am forever in debt to that man and what he's done for my daughter and what he does for kids like her. Go check it out if you need it. But there's opportunity, getting in opportunities like that, and we just constantly teach. Even with Lillian, like I'll say something to her and be like, "Hey,
what's the camp name?"
Summit.com. The Summit. It's in Honesdale, PA. Shep Baum is the owner.
Summit.com. How the hell did they get that?
You know what? I could be lying to you too, man.
No, maybe it's not it. It's Summit Camp, right?
Summit Camp.
And travel. Magic on the Hill?
Yes, that's the one. Honesdale. Magic on the Hill. Sorry, Shep. I ruined your shout out.
But, no, that's good. Yesterday I was just telling someone, literally said, we love giving free advertising on the Wolff Den. And I literally mean it. Like, if there's something that you like and there's something that people do well, like,
yeah,
why wouldn't I tell everybody?
Life changing, man. It's
there's somebody right now who's talking about Ticket Time Machine in a positive light, not getting paid for it.
It's me, man. I'm telling everybody.
It's good to support, and it's good to know that's resource, right? You're helping someone who might have a child who needs help. And they look, if they do a research, maybe they find it, but now you got it where they know about it and they can look it up and they can reach out to you if they have any questions about it. But yeah, it's always just like, man, that's why I talk about the measurable data. But people don't want to talk about it because you can't measure it, you can't put a dollar on it. How many viewers do you have? How many whatever, I don't know, viewers or subscribers, but who knows? I mean, someone could have seen that and now they told their friend who told their friend and they called up Summit and they're going to be like, well, how'd you find out? I don't know. My friend told me.
Yeah. And on top of it, Matt, that 6 degrees of separation, you could change somebody's life. Like my daughter's life has changed and it happened. I posted something on Lillian on LinkedIn and Shep reached out to me. Like the way you connect to people, the way you're able to do that. And that's what such a wonderful thing about a platform like this, or you allowing guests to come on and have these conversations. It's amazing. There could be somebody out there right now that hears our conversation and goes, oh shit, maybe my daughter does. Oh, I'm not sure.
I think we're allowed to. It's on YouTube. I think so.
All right.
I listened to Chris Rock yesterday. He was dropping F-bombs on YouTube. So I'm going to.
All right. I've been well behaved. Usually I'm much worse than this, but I've been good today. But it's just amazing what you can, how you can impact somebody and what you do. It doesn't matter. Like, all right, so perfect example. Last night at the event, we had 600 plus people out there. Maybe 3/4 of which would have had no association to Williams syndrome. And yeah, we raised a great amount of money, and we had a wonderful event, and the heartstrings were pulled, and everybody had a blast. But now you can't measure or quantify how many people just went back out into that world and now know a little bit about Williams syndrome and can share with a few more people, and are recognizing of the great work that this organization is doing. You can't pay for that. There's no way to put a price on it. We're thrilled that we were able to do that last night. Valbella's restaurant, Valbella at the Park in Manhattan, is who hosted us. They have no traction. Valbella at the Park in Manhattan. It's right in the middle of Times Square. They had no connection to us. They are a friend to a woman named Camille Forciano, whose son Anthony is diagnosed with Williams syndrome. And they love her so much, they shut their beautiful 3-floor restaurant down for the night to support our event for no reason other than just kindness. They've received nothing from it. They're just amazing people. And the things, and a shout out to Rosie at Valbella's. She pulled in 1 million different gifts, did wonderful work for us. Also, the entire Williams syndrome team, in particular, Anne-Marie and Joanna, or team members of mine who just really ran their butts off to put together an amazing event. So I'll
have to ask my sister. She lived in New York City up until a couple of weeks ago. Now she's in Thailand.
She's got to know it, man. This place.
She's in Thailand right now, and she's in the event world, so she probably has had an event or looked at it or had something. So we'll check that out. Valbella at the Park.
Chicken parm there is insane. Like, look, yeah. I'm a chubby dude. I know what chicken parm is good. All right, this place is bananas. Like the chicken parm is off the hook.
But speaking of chicken, the chicken tenders at the Johnny Damon event were really, really good.
Really were, weren't they? Yo, do you know we came in 3 strokes back of winning it?
Did you?
We really did. We were 3
Who
strokes
was
away
on your
from it.
team?
I had Andrew Giuliani,
Okay,
Bo Outlaw.
he was good.
Yeah, Andrew Giuliani's nasty.
Yeah.
Bo Outlaw, who I think I could beat Bo if he's listening. I think I could kick Bo's butt. Chris Leak, Florida State quarterback
Oh,
from a few years
no.
ago.
Gator.
Right?
Chris Leak.
Inside that Florida State.
Gators.
Oh God, please
Come
forgive
on.
me. Gators.
All right, we're gonna have to abruptly end the show.
Yeah, just cancel the show, man. I'm sorry. And then we had
Chris Leak is good. I talked to him.
He can play, man.
Yeah.
You know, and then we had Savage. He's a trick shot guy.
Yeah. But so I don't remember. Was it a scramble? Was it best
ball? It was
ball?
a scramble.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I played the best golf of my life. Listen, I'm not a big hitter, right? 220, 240 down the middle. It was the best golf I'd get up first. I'd just dead down the middle, 240. And every person behind me, except for Bo Outlaw, would crush the ball 100 yards past me. We drove past my perfect shots all day long. Didn't use one of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's so fun. You get to see the one I don't like about that is I kind of want to see what my score is because they're not going to use us. And like I just played in a Red Meat Lovers Club charity event last week. I hadn't been on a course in 5 years, probably maybe more. I go to ranges and stuff. Pretty good range player. I could drive. It's probably my best club, but man, I couldn't drive anything. And I had some nice shots, but it was fun to watch these players. And we were like 11 or 12 under. And
we finished like 18
as a team. And I think like 14 or 15 won. But man, we didn't miss a whole lot.
Did I tell you at the event they had closest to the pin competition?
And no, but I know they had one too. Yeah.
So I stick this par 3. I'm not even kidding, man. This far away from the pin, it was awesome. That's the only thing I did all day long because everybody else was doing everything else. So we go up and they're like, "Hey, Joe, sign your name to the closest to the pin." So I sign it, like 100% going to win it. You can't get it unless you get a hole in one. You're not getting inside of where I was. We get about 2 holes away from when I sign it, and I think it was Bo Outlaw. He leans over and goes, "Hey, man, that was the women's closest to the shot thing. So when they call the announcement of who won closest to the shot for women, they're going to call your name." And I was like, "What the hell, man?"
Sign the wrong thing.
Yeah, they did it on purpose, though. They were just trying to bust my chops.
No, those are fun. I got to play more of them. I'd love to play one of your tournaments. I have to see when the timing and location goes. It's fun. It's a good day. It's for a good cause, and you could meet some good people. I think that was one of the things about this is we had some chance to talk to I was in a cart and there were 2 others, so there's 4 of us kind of playing on the team. It was good. It was just a good day of chatting and fun, and then they had a nice dinner. Golf has really become like the biggest charity, right? Everyone it's a celebrity golf. Yeah, you see some celebrity basketball here and there, and at the Super Bowl some stuff, but that's where it's at.
Yeah, I was just looking up at my board. June 26th in Rhode Island. It's the New England tournament. That's going to be a really fun one. So anybody that wants to come out and attend. We're trying to convince Johnny Damon to come up. I've been talking with his scheduler, but that's going to be an awesome one, definitely. And then one out in Tucson. We're all going to die because it's in the middle of July, but that's going to be a really fun one too. And I forgot to say too when we were talking about the classic, I had Daly was in the group paired up with us.
Oh man, he was so good. I have a video. He got on the green. He got on the tee, didn't take a swing, made a funny comment, and nailed it. 300 plus straight down.
He drove a ball off the guy in my group. They have like a jock strap that had a tee on it. And he hit a shot off of the guy's tee off his jock strap as the guy laid down and drove the ball 250 yards off his crotch. It was insane.
We had Major Ed on the show who's with John Daly and his foundation in the golf. I think it's going on right now. Yeah. Big golf. And John, man, he was fun, wasn't he? He was smoking and drinking and get up singing the night before, and he was great. It's just a pleasure to watch someone like that. And
He was a very friendly guy, man. I never met him before, smoking a cigar with him, having drinks, hanging out with him all night. Like, it was very cool. His board member too, Ron Pfizer, I think. Really nice guy.
Foster.
Foster's a different guy.
Yeah.
It's like Pizer or something like that.
Oh, okay. I just talked to Ron yesterday. We're going to do some stuff. He's got some celebrity golf events coming up too, so we're hoping to.
Yeah, you got to time me in. Let me know, because I got Ron on my Facebook now. He was a really nice guy too. So if you guys have anything that Johnny Damon's like a once in a lifetime thing, that was a networking thing for us because it's a little out of our tax bracket. But if they ever got any spots for me anywhere else, I'll come up and talk with anybody.
Yeah, it's good. People, giving their, because sometimes it's just a matter of giving your time, and we all have time. We're busy, but we all have time to give. And that's the number one thing that I feel I like to give to charity is my time. I volunteered at a charity event the Super Bowl week. And whenever I can, I don't do as much as I'd like to. I'd like to find, selfishly, same like everyone else. It's like, what do you do that you might think is enjoyable for you, whether that's an environment or an event. But whatever it is, it's all, there's no bad reason to volunteer at an event like this.
We bring a bunch of Williams syndrome families out to a sporting event, and you could be our host, man. That's your next volunteer.
Now we're here in Florida.
What part of Florida do you got? I forget.
I'm in South Florida, so you got, the Marlins are playing now, but next year you got the Dolphins, the Heat, and the Panthers. They're in the playoffs.
Well, if there's anything ever you want to do, I'll arrange it. We'll get down there. We got a bunch of wonderful families. Actually, one of our VPs lives in Orlando. So we got a lot of connections down there.
Not far from where we are here. Man, there's so many problems in the world, and cancer and disease is one of them. But let's just say you can't cure a disease. That can't be your answer. But you can eradicate something just like this. What would you choose? What would it be?
Scott, for me right now, obviously it's close to home. Heart disease. My grandfather
Say
passed.
No disease. We can't just
cure. So if I had to get rid of
hunger, homelessness.
I 100% know that.
Violence, gun violence, whatever.
There's so many things that I could pick from, and you're never going to get the right answer. But what's close to home for us is childhood hunger. My wife, her name is Rachel Grimaldi. She's a reading specialist up at Pocono Mountain School District in our area. It's a Title I school, so it means we're in an impoverished area. She, on her own, created a food pantry in the West High School to make sure that kids are fed over the weekend. So when the kids come to school, they get their breakfast and their lunch, but there's kids that are going home and they're not having anything to eat from Friday night to Monday morning.
Yeah, there's also kids who can't even get to school in time for breakfast is, a big problem I hear.
So she gets no funding for it. We have a wonderful church that's been helping us out in the area that was donating food. She does some dress down days for the school, but it's me going out and buying a ton of food for this pantry every week. It's some of her partners that Balmer and Stoker that are out there helping her get some food put in and putting their own money out. But if we could eliminate something, it's that Maslow's hierarchy of the needs, right? Like if you can't meet your basic needs, you can't do anything else.
Correct.
And making sure somebody is fed and safe. I grew up in a tough house, man. There was a lot of issues in our house. We were poor when we were younger. And school was a safe haven for me, even though I was a knucklehead when I was in school. But that's where I knew I was safe all the time, and I would be taken care of all the time. Not that I wasn't at home, but there were some issues.
Yeah.
What she's doing to create an atmosphere like that for her kids. Like I played around with the idea, like somebody like LeBron, I'll use LeBron James, not that he's not doing a million different things, because what he does is amazing. But if you took somebody with that kind of influence, power, and money, you could essentially, with the right game plan and the right support that has that networking, eliminate hunger in Cleveland, Ohio.
Listen, forget Cleveland, Ohio. It boggles my mind how we haven't eradicated hunger and homelessness in the U.S.
In general, yeah, 100%.
With money and power and influence, we waste enough money on elections. I think I probably told you the amount of money that's wasted on elections and all this other stuff. It can be done if enough people cared. Obviously, I can't spend other people's money. And if I ever make a lot of money, I'm going to spread the wealth into things that I think are worthy of doing. But it boggles. I have no idea how it's not
But
with the
even like that's what I say. So like homelessness, really, what you have like this is another thing I would spend money on. But mental health issues in our country and the lack of care for people with mental health issues is insane to me.
well, the
But
mental health issue would take care of some of the homelessness.
I would take care of
All
a
these people who are
majority of
homeless are walking around with a mental health condition.
majority of the homelessness. My brother is struggling through this right now. He's not handling my father's death well. He needs treatment. There's nothing available to him. He's in and out of hospitalizations. He's got nothing that he can go to.
They give him medicine. I mean, I know
Medicine is it's a band-aid, man, and he can't care for
I
himself.
get it's a band-aid, but that's what helped me just initially, and then you could figure it out.
But that's the thing. He doesn't have they gave him the medicine, but he doesn't have the coping skills
Yeah.
or the functionability to be able to go out there and continue with outpatient care. So he stops.
Tell him he can call me, man. I lost my dad a long time ago, and it never stops hurting. But yeah. I'm happy to talk to him, and I know someone who just lost their mother. People who recently who would talk. I think it's just about talking it through it and finding out that you're not the only one who's dealing with this, and so that's hopefully.
I'll take you up on it, man.
Yeah.
But it compounds the problem for him. It compounds it because he already had some mental health issues, and then this was over the top. So, but anyway, I'll bring it up not to woe is me, but if he didn't have me, he would be one of those people. He can't pay his bills. He can't find treatment. He'd just be on the streets.
I mean, I always say I'm never not going to have a roof over my head. And so because I'm around the people who I know would never let that happen. But we're very fortunate to be that type of person. So, have him reach out. I have other people he can talk to who have recently experienced that, who would talk to him. It's just more about finding out people with common, going through some of the same stuff. We're going to let you out of the Wolff Den with the same question that everybody gets. You can spend a day with anybody in the world. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you pick, and what would you guys do? Someday when I have enough money, influence, and power, I'm going to make some of this stuff happen. Some of it's easier than others, but we've made outreach to people who have been on the list.
So I want to come up with a good answer here. I want to tell you somebody instrumental or somebody that did amazing things.
Yeah, it could be fun. Someone famous.
God's honest truth, man. It's so cheesy. I love John Starks. Like
John Starks, the basketball player.
I grew up in the 90s with the Knicks. Harper, Starks, Oakley, Mason, Ewing, Smith, Bonner, Davis, all those guys, right? I'm a diehard Knicks fan. John Starks has given me like Ewing more than anybody, but Ewing's somebody that you're never going to meet. Starks is a homegrown, bagging groceries in Oklahoma City, undrafted, worked his ass off.
You might be able to meet Ewing.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ewing. Ewing's like no joke.
Remember the story where the security wanted to throw him out of the garden?
No, that was Oakley. They tried to throw Oakley out. I've met.
No, Oakley got into a fight, but Ewing was just walking. He was a coach.
I didn't hear about that.
He was walking in the hallway, and someone didn't think he belonged there.
That's insane.
And I'm like, first of all, it's Patrick Ewing, and second of all, he's like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, you can't really mistake Patrick Ewing. I would go. Listen,
John Starks. That's a great answer. Well, we're going to outreach to John. I think I might have something for you that's John Starks related memorabilia that I have. I'll share it with you.
I still have the dunk on my wall. May 14th, 1995.
Ah, that dunk.
I've got the poster on my wall on Grant and Jordan. I got it when I was 12 years old, 13 years old, and it's still on my bedroom wall at my childhood home. So that's my guy, John Starks. Yeah,
I love it. All right, well, check out the social media, Williams Syndrome. It's Instagram and Facebook. And then check out the website. It's williams-syndrome.org. If you /donate, you can donate money. You can find out what events they have, including the walk that's coming in Philadelphia in May, a golf tournament in Rhode Island in June. Lots of events. Reach out to Joe for more information. Connect, share the information with someone else, and let's make some lives better.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Matt. Love you for having me on, man. Right. Really appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, Joe. Have a good one. We had one more episode, 3 this week. Stay tuned tomorrow and have a great night and do something good.
Take care, man.